It began on a quiet Thursday evening, one of those days when nothing feels strange enough to signal danger, yet everything beneath the surface is shifting like a shadow waiting to reveal its true shape. In the heart of Cleveland, Ohio, a group of friends thought they were planning a harmless prank, something they would laugh about for years. But within hours, that so-called joke would spiral into one of the most unthinkable real crime stories, a suspense-filled nightmare that would shake an entire community and dominate headlines across America. Because sometimes, the line between laughter and terror is thinner than anyone wants to admit, and one wrong decision can turn friendly mischief into a shocking crime that changes lives forever. And it all started with the whisper of a dare that no one should have accepted. And as this unsettling truth sinks in, a single sentence settles like dust before the storm. Disclaimer: content is for awareness and educational purposes only. Viewer discretion advised. What unfolded in Cleveland in the spring of 2019 still feels unreal to the people who witnessed it. A city known for its hardworking families and quiet neighborhoods was suddenly thrust into a dark mystery, one that began with teenagers sitting around a basement table, tossing around reckless ideas the way some people toss coins. There was Tyler, the charismatic one, the kind of 18-year-old who loved attention, lived for reactions, and always pushed boundaries just to see what would happen. There was Jaden, quieter, but loyal enough to follow wherever Tyler led. And then there was Mia, the only girl in the group that night, whose uneasy laugh was the first sign that what they were planning wasn't funny, not even close. They were joking about kidnappings, laughing about fake ransom calls, reenacting scenes from crime documentaries as though criminal justice was just a game. And maybe that's where the danger began, when real-life crimes stop being real, when true crime stops sounding tragic and starts sounding entertaining. Because for Tyler, it sparked an idea, a ridiculous idea, a dangerous idea, an idea he believed would go viral on social media and turn him into some kind of legend among his followers. He wanted to stage a kidnapping, not a small prank, a full-scale fake abduction, complete with masks, a getaway car, the trembling victim, and the video that would capture it all. And even though Mia said it sounded stupid and Jaden hesitated, Tyler had already crossed the mental line from imagination to action. But the horrifying twist was this: their plan wouldn't stay fake. As the group sat in that basement, ideas spinning faster than their common sense, they picked their target. Elias, a 17-year-old classmate they barely knew. Someone quiet, gentle, and too trusting for his own good. He was the kind of kid who would follow if you said you needed help, the kind who avoided conflict, the kind criminals choose in real abduction cases. Except this wasn't supposed to be real, at least according to Tyler's original script. They would grab him, record his scared reaction, reveal the joke, and post it online. That was the plan. That was the fantasy. That was the point where someone should have said stop, but no one did. And so the next evening, around 8:15 p.m., Elias stepped outside his apartment building to throw away a bag of trash. He had headphones in, listening to a playlist of soft indie songs, completely unaware of the car creeping toward him with its headlights off. Inside the vehicle, Tyler pulled down his ski mask. Jaden gripped the camera with shaking hands. Mia whispered, "Maybe we shouldn't do this," but her voice was swallowed by fear and Tyler's recklessness. The car door flew open. The scream never came. Elias was snatched so fast, so violently, that the shock froze him before he could make a sound. Inside the car, panic erupted. Elias wasn't reacting the way they expected. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't fighting. He wasn't even speaking. His silence terrified them. Tyler barked orders. Jaden kept recording even though his hands trembled. Mia begged them to let the boy go. But the car sped on, deeper into the darkened streets, as the prank mutated into something far more sinister. A crime, a real one, and they all knew it. By the time they reached the abandoned storage warehouse on Euclid Avenue, Elias had tears streaming down his face. He thought he had been kidnapped for real. He thought he was going to die. And in that moment, something inside Tyler snapped, and the prankster became the predator. The line had been crossed. The joke was now a felony, and everyone in the building could feel the dread tightening like a noose. But the nightmare was only beginning, because the group didn't know that someone had already seen them. A neighbor who noticed the dark car, a door camera that recorded Elias being taken, a mother who realized her son should have returned minutes ago. Police were already searching. Time was already running out, and the so-called joke was about to trigger one of the most intense missing person investigations Cleveland had seen in years, pushing detectives into a labyrinth of clues, lies, fear, and a truth so disturbing that the nation would struggle to understand how an ordinary group of teens could commit a crime this catastrophic. And as the warehouse door slammed shut behind them, sealing Elias inside, a chilling question hung in the air like smoke. What happens when a prank crosses the line so far that there is no way back? If this story has touched you so far, kindly comment, "This is unbelievable." Share this story across all your contacts who need to hear it. Subscribe and follow Crime Chronicles TVc for more gripping, chilling true crime stories. And don't forget to turn on your notification bell, because what comes next is even darker, and the truth waiting inside that warehouse would haunt the city for months. The warehouse was silent except for the faint hum of broken fluorescent lights overhead. Shadows stretched across the dusty floor, turning corners into black voids. Elias sat against a cold concrete wall, trying to steady his breath, listening to the muffled voices of the trio pacing nearby. Every floorboard creak, every shift of air made him flinch. He could feel his heart hammering, a rhythm so fast it seemed to echo across the empty space. He thought, "This is it. This is how it ends." And in those moments, a truth hit him. This wasn't a joke. Not anymore. This was real. A kidnapping. And real kidnappings, he had learned from true crime documentaries, often ended badly. Very badly. Tyler had barricaded the main entrance with old pallets, nails jutting out in haphazard angles. His confidence, once brash, was now tinged with tension. He realized the reality of the act, the gravity of his choices, and the consequences lurking just outside those walls. Jaden tried to calm him, whispering, "It's just a prank. We'll let him go." But Tyler shook his head. "No, we're already here. There's no turning back." That sentence would haunt all three of them for years to come, as it marked the moment where impulse overtook morality and fear began to mutate into control. Mia, sitting across the warehouse, tugged at her sleeve, biting her nails. Her voice trembled. "Maybe we should call someone. The cops, before it gets worse." Tyler glared. "If anyone finds out, we're done. Finished. It's our story now." His words were a knife to her stomach. She realized this wasn't about a prank anymore. It was about power, about dominance, about a thrill that had gone too far. Outside the warehouse, the city had begun to stir. A neighbor had recorded the suspicious car earlier and called the police, reporting a potential abduction. Dispatchers immediately put units on high alert. Detectives Robinson and Keller arrived within 15 minutes, scanning the perimeter, questioning witnesses, and tracing tire tracks that led straight to the warehouse. The tension was electric. Every passing second outside increased the danger for Elias inside, and inside, every second stretched like eternity. The first phone call came from a frantic parent, a mother reporting her son missing, describing the same dark vehicle that had abducted him. Police scrambled. Traffic cameras, neighborhood watch feeds, even social media alerts were activated. Meanwhile, Elias had gathered the courage to speak. "Please, don't hurt me," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Tyler's reaction was unpredictable. One moment he laughed nervously, the next his eyes flashed with a dangerous intensity. As hours passed, the psychological strain intensified. Elias noticed cracks in Tyler's control. Hesitation, muttered curses, the occasional glance toward the locked exit doors, as if he feared being caught. Jaden began to sweat, realizing they were truly trapped between the law and the consequences of their own actions. And Mia? She was panicking, praying silently, wishing she had never agreed to follow Tyler's reckless leadership. Somewhere in the chaos, Elias spotted an old ventilation grate in the corner, slightly loosened. It was small, barely enough to crawl through, but it was a glimmer of hope. Escape? The thought sparked something inside him. Courage mixed with desperation. Tyler, noticing his gaze, moved closer. "Stop staring at the walls," he barked. Detectives Robinson and Keller arrived within 15 minutes, scanning the perimeter, questioning witnesses, and tracing tire tracks that led straight to the warehouse. The tension was electric. Every passing second outside increased the danger for Elias inside, and inside, every second stretched like eternity. The first phone call came from a frantic parent, a mother reporting her son missing, describing the same dark vehicle that had abducted him. Police scrambled. Traffic cameras, neighborhood watch feeds, even social media alerts were activated. Meanwhile, Elias had gathered the courage to speak. "Please, don't hurt me," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Tyler's reaction was unpredictable. One moment he laughed nervously, the next his eyes flashed with a dangerous intensity. As hours passed, the psychological strain intensified. Elias noticed cracks in Tyler's control. Hesitation, muttered curses, the occasional glance toward the locked exit doors, as if he feared being caught. Jaden began to sweat, realizing they were truly trapped between the law and the consequences of their own actions. And Mia? She was panicking, praying silently, wishing she had never agreed to follow Tyler's reckless leadership. Somewhere in the chaos, Elias spotted an old ventilation grate in the corner, slightly loosened. It was small, barely enough to crawl through, but it was a glimmer of hope. Escape? The thought sparked something inside him. Courage mixed with desperation. Tyler, noticing his gaze, moved closer. "Stop staring at the walls," he barked. Detectives Robinson and Keller arrived within 15 minutes, scanning the perimeter, questioning witnesses, and tracing tire tracks that led straight to the warehouse. The tension was electric. Every passing second outside increased the danger for Elias inside, and inside, every second stretched like eternity. The first phone call came from a frantic parent, a mother reporting her son missing, describing the same dark vehicle that had abducted him. Police scrambled. Traffic cameras, neighborhood watch feeds, even social media alerts were activated. Meanwhile, Elias had gathered the courage to speak. "Please, don't hurt me," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Tyler's reaction was unpredictable. One moment he laughed nervously, the next his eyes flashed with a dangerous intensity. As hours passed, the psychological strain intensified. Elias noticed cracks in Tyler's control. Hesitation, muttered curses, the occasional glance toward the locked exit doors, as if he feared being caught. Jaden began to sweat, realizing they were truly trapped between the law and the consequences of their own actions. And Mia? She was panicking, praying silently, wishing she had never agreed to follow Tyler's reckless leadership. Somewhere in the chaos, Elias spotted an old ventilation grate in the corner, slightly loosened. It was small, barely enough to crawl through, but it was a glimmer of hope. Escape? The thought sparked something inside him. Courage mixed with desperation. Tyler, noticing his gaze, moved closer. "Stop staring at the walls," he barked. Elias's heart raced faster than ever. The predator and the prey were locked in a deadly psychological duel, a battle of nerves that no one outside the warehouse could see yet. And then, from somewhere beyond the darkened streets, sirens screamed, a sound that made Tyler freeze. Detective Robinson's voice cracked over the radio. "Units are converging on Euclid Avenue. Perimeter secured. Suspect may be inside a warehouse." Tyler's mask of control faltered. Panic overtook him for the first time. Every decision he had made now had real consequences. Every prank, every laugh, every moment of arrogance led to this, an irreversible spiral toward disaster. Elias, sensing Tyler's distraction, crawled slowly toward the vent. It was now or never. He had to act. Every muscle in his body trembled as he pushed himself forward, fingers scraping against rusty metal, heart pounding like a war drum. And just as he slipped inside, a shadow moved across the wall behind him. Tyler, realizing the escape. A gasp escaped Jaden's lips. Mia screamed. And at that moment, the first confrontation with law enforcement loomed, ready to shatter the fragile, desperate control Tyler had fought so hard to maintain. If this story has gripped your attention so far, and you're wondering whether Elias can escape, or how the authorities will catch these reckless teens, kindly comment, "I'm following this case." Share this story with those who need to hear it. Subscribe and follow Crime Chronicles TVc for more shocking true crime stories, and turn on the notification bell, because the next chapter reveals a twist no one could have anticipated, and the consequences of one joke will shock you to your core. Elias crawled through the narrow ventilation shaft, each scrape of metal against his skin echoing in the darkness. The air was thick, stale, and suffocating, but the thought of freedom kept him moving forward. Every heartbeat reminded him of the danger he had narrowly escaped, but it also reminded him of the others still trapped in the warehouse. Tyler and Jaden were panicking, and Mia's cries had grown desperate, echoing through the concrete walls. Outside, the wail of approaching sirens drew closer, a relentless reminder that the law was finally closing in. Tyler's eyes darted toward the warehouse doors as Detective Robinson and his team approached, flashlights cutting through the night. The walls of their so-called safe haven suddenly felt like a prison. The bravado that had carried him this far was cracking under pressure. Jaden tried to calm him, but the trembling in his own hands betrayed a fear that words could not contain. And Mia? She had collapsed near a corner, sobbing, silently begging for a miracle that might never come. The first officer burst through the main entrance, shouting commands. Tyler's instinct was to flee, but the pallets blocking the door slowed him down. He realized, too late, that the joke had become a full-blown criminal nightmare. The detective's flashlight caught the glint of Tyler's ski mask, and for a brief moment, Tyler froze, eyes wide, realizing the gravity of his choices. One misstep, one wrong movement, and everything would unravel completely. Elias reached the end of the shaft, pushing open a small service exit leading to the alley behind the warehouse. Cold night air hit him like a punch to the chest. His legs were numb, his fingers raw, but adrenaline and fear fueled his movements. He glanced back once, and through a cracked grate, saw Tyler struggling with the barricades. Panic overtook him. For the first time, he felt a strange mixture of triumph and dread. Triumph for surviving, dread for those still trapped and the consequences yet to unfold. As police entered the warehouse, Tyler was confronted by Detective Keller. His mask of control had vanished entirely. "It was just supposed to be a joke," Tyler shouted, voice cracking under pressure. "I didn't mean for this to happen." But the officers knew the truth. This was no longer a prank. It had escalated into a dangerous abduction with psychological terror inflicted on a vulnerable victim. Jaden was taken into custody quietly, shaking, barely able to speak, while Mia was pulled aside, trembling but unharmed. Evidence was collected meticulously. The surveillance footage from the neighbor, the tire tracks, and the items left in the warehouse revealed the depth of planning and recklessness. Detectives realized the abduction could have ended in tragedy. The investigation revealed something even more disturbing. Tyler had researched abduction techniques online. What began as a joke had been influenced by the dark corners of social media, demonstrating how easily curiosity and bravado can turn deadly. Elias, finally safe, sat with officers in the patrol car, shaking uncontrollably. His eyes darted toward the warehouse, where the law was now in control, and yet he could not forget the terror of the hours spent as a captive. The experience would leave a permanent mark on him, shaping his perception of trust, danger, and human nature. Tyler and Jaden faced immediate criminal charges, including kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and conspiracy, but the broader lesson extended far beyond the courtroom. How quickly a prank can become a real crime, and how fragile the line between mischief and malevolence truly is. The case made national headlines, sparking discussions on the dangers of social media influence, peer pressure, and the consequences of reckless decisions. It became a cautionary tale for parents, teenagers, and communities nationwide. And yet, as the story circulated, questions remained. Could Tyler truly grasp the reality of his actions, or would he forever see it as a failed joke? How would Elias recover from the trauma of being targeted for amusement? And most chillingly, how many others might fall victim to pranks that start as innocent but spiral into life-altering crimes? If this story has gripped your attention and left you asking what really drives someone to commit a crime under the guise of fun, kindly comment. Justice must prevail. Share this video with all who need to hear it. Subscribe and follow CrimeChroniclesTVc for more shocking, gripping, and eye-opening true crime stories. And turn on the notification bell, because the final part reveals the aftermath, the courtroom reckoning, and the chilling lessons this case leaves behind. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension and anticipation. Families, friends, reporters, and curious onlookers had gathered, each drawn to a story that had shocked an entire city. Tyler, once brash and full of confidence, now sat hunched in the defendant's chair, hands cuffed, eyes darting nervously across the room. Jaden and Mia, too, faced the consequences of their choices. Though Mia's tears and remorse painted her differently than the others, her silence a haunting acknowledgement of the chaos she had helped create. As the prosecutor laid out the case, the timeline of events was reconstructed in meticulous detail. Every moment, from the basement planning session to the warehouse abduction and Elias's escape, was presented as a chilling example of how quickly a joke can escalate into a true crime nightmare. The jury watched footage from surveillance cameras, listened to witness testimonies, and heard the emotional recounting from Elias himself. His voice, trembling but clear, carried the weight of fear, betrayal, and resilience. The room held its breath as he described the moments of terror in the warehouse, the suffocating darkness, and the feeling of helplessness that had threatened to consume him. Outside the courtroom, parents whispered warnings to their teenagers about peer pressure and the dangers of social media influence. The story became more than just a legal case. It became a moral lesson, a grim reminder that choices have consequences and that recklessness can transform innocence into tragedy. For Tyler, Jaden, and Mia, the trial was a harsh awakening. Tyler faced the full weight of criminal justice, a sentence that would follow him for the rest of his life. Just a permanent record of one catastrophic night that began with a careless dare. But the aftermath was not only legal. Elias, though forever marked by the trauma, began to find strength in his survival. Support from his family, counseling, and the solidarity of his friends and community became a testament to human resilience. He became an advocate, speaking out about the dangers of seemingly harmless pranks, the importance of recognizing red flags in friendships, and the reality of psychological trauma inflicted by those we trust. As the case closed, the public grappled with a haunting question. How many times do we dismiss warning signs, convincing ourselves that nothing terrible could happen? How often do we underestimate the darkness that can hide behind a smile, a laugh, or a joke? And perhaps most chilling of all, how close do we come to disaster before it's too late to turn back? For Tyler, Jaden, and Mia, life would never return to normal. For Elias, the world had shifted forever. A blend of fear and courage, sorrow and strength. And for the rest of the city, this story remained a cautionary tale. Sometimes, the line between fun and crime is thinner than we realize, and the consequences are far more real than any of us want to admit. If you are touched by this story, shocked by its lessons, or reminded of how fragile trust can be, kindly comment, "Never forget this." Share this video with everyone who needs to hear this cautionary tale. Subscribe and follow Crime Chronicles TVc for more gripping, shocking, and emotional true crime stories. And don't forget to turn on your notification bell, because every story you see here is real, every lesson is vital, and every moment matters. This is Crime Chronicles TVc, your daily dose of real crime stories. Stay tuned for more gripping tales of justice, betrayal, and survival that will keep you on the edge of your seat.